Arts Weekly, celebrating regional expression, performance, and creativity, is brought to you in part by the Edward D. and Ione Auer Foundation, the Ian and Mimi Rowland Foundation, the family of Dr. Christopher and Kirsten LaSalle, and the support of viewers like you. Thank you.
This is Arts Weekly.
Arts Weekly is produced in cooperation with the College of Visual and Performing Arts at IPFW, offering degrees in fine arts, music, theater, and visual communication and design.
Welcome to Arts Weekly. I'm Melinda Haynes with the IPFW College of Visual and Performing Arts. On today's show, we'll chat with the directors of two local organizations about their unique upcoming events. In the second half of the show, Nikki Foltz from Fort Wayne Pride will share the details about that organization and its upcoming annual Pride Festival. But first, I'm joined by Charles Shepard of the Fort Wayne Museum of Art to talk about their Glass Invitational running through September 29th. Welcome, Charles.
Well, thanks for having me, Melinda.
Well, this topic is very interesting about the glass, but we've got to talk about this big local news in the front of your building with this gentleman who ran into your prize sculpture. You know,
prize 10-ton sculpture.
That was a lot of damage to that piece of work. Tell me about where that stands right now.
Well, it's interesting because obviously it's an upsetting thing for everybody involved, right. But let me tell you first about my conversation on that Sunday afternoon with the artist who's 80 years old and was preparing to go to Italy to install new sculpture in Italy. His first comment to me is, "The young man okay?"
Oh, bless him.
What a compassionate thing to say when something so devastating has happened to a sculpture that you've built. I thought that's a mark of a really good man.
Right.
Now, the second thing was, he said, "Okay, what are we going to do to fix it?"
Right.
I said, "Okay, what we're going to do is we're going to assess the damage. We're going to take it apart, and we're going to do whatever you want to do." His choice, let's send it to California studio of his, and he will go out there and personally, at 80 years old, fix the sculpture and get it back to Fort Wayne and return with it for a triumphant revival and rejuvenation of this sculpture on our land.
Now, the artist's name is?
Mark DeSufero.
Okay, and this was put into place when? How many years ago?
Basically, it was in 1985 and then moved again in the 90s to its present site, which is a beautiful site, you know, in the park there for us. And in fact, lined up directly with Bar Street to be a signifier of the cultural district. No one ever, you know, thought it would be a signifier as a target down Bar Street. It'll never happen again, I'm sure. But
do you think that the finished or rejuvenated sculpture will look just the same, or will it look different?
I think it'll look exactly the same. And that's the importance, though, of going back to the artist and his studio team, because you want to get it right in his eye and in his feeling for everything being exactly correct, so that it really is the sculpture that it always was. Right. You know, if you and I were good with metal and we fixed it, it still would not be a Mark DeSufero.
Right. Right, it'd be like painting over the Mona Lisa, trying to fix a few things. So where does this rejuvenation project stand now?
Well, as of yesterday, what we decided is that we're going to wait till the end of Three Rivers Festival for safety and bring 3 cranes in. It'll take 3 cranes to dismantle the various different pieces, to unbolt them and hold the other pieces. They will then be loaded on an art truck, a flatbed art carrier truck, taken to California to the studio. They will spend, I'm guessing, several months, you know, refabricating, making sure that everything is strength-wise safe, but also aesthetically appropriate. They'll put it together, strangely enough, make sure it works, take it apart again, put it on a truck, send it back here. We'll put it together again, we'll repaint it again, and then we'll have a great celebration.
Oh, wow, that is going to be a wonderful
It'll be the Renaissance in Fort Wayne.
That's great. Well, so this kind of came up to put a little bump in the road, but you have an awful lot of other things going on at the museum right now.
That particular week we had a lot of things going on.
So what's going on right now? You've got a very interesting exhibit about afros. Tell me about that.
It's an extraordinary exhibit, and I have to tell you, I look everywhere possible for artists to work with. You know, we have an actual institutional situation we call the National Network, where we go out and work with people in every state to try to find out who to show, what to show, where we could send that show, etc. And this particular trek led me to Brooklyn, New York. And in Brooklyn, I found a guy, Michael July, who was publishing a book about afros with his wonderful photography. And I gave him a call immediately. Said, "You don't know me. I'm from Fort Wayne. It's not an army post. Let me tell you, we would love to do a show of the things in your book." He was floored. He said, "I called the Brooklyn Museum, and they didn't return my calls." He said, "I'm delighted to work with Fort Wayne." He flew out here. We had meetings. We worked this whole thing out. And so we are the national debut and the national tour for Michael July's Afro show, a celebration of natural hair.
So are these all photographs?
All photographs.
Okay.
And
are they color photographs?
they are
black
color
and white?
photographs, and they each are done with an eye to the appropriate environment and setting for whoever is the subject of this piece, and then text by that piece, you know, text by that person,
Right.
and then in culmination, it's just a huge 400-page book. It's
Right.
gorgeous. It weighs like 20 pounds.
It's bigger than a coffee table
Yes,
book.
it is bigger
It's
than
a
a coffee
dining
table
room
book.
table book.
And very affordable. It's just really a wonderful thing. And it's tied in something that I hadn't thought about initially, I have to confess. I didn't think about how natural hair ties in to the green movement, the notion that maybe we don't want to put chemicals in our bodies and on our hair, and maybe that is just a better way to go. So all over this region, we've attracted people who want to not use chemicals, and we're getting calls from cities all over the place. They want the show because they want to rally their troops behind that. It is marvelous. The feedback is huge.
Kind of a green environmental show as well as a
Yeah,
cultural
as
show.
well as a cultural show. It's terrific.
That sounds really
It's
neat.
exciting.
How big are the photographs?
Oh, the photographs, the smallest one is probably, 24 by 24, and then they go up, to 48 by 60
Wow.
deep. Some are really big.
That's very
And
impressive
they're
to look
moving.
at.
They're powerful.
Oh, great. Now you've got, besides that, you have a very, the studio glass is kind of the feature all summer and through September.
Oh, it's a very big deal.
Tell me about this. I know there's a lot to
Well,
this story.
We are committed to exhibiting a wider range of art media than the museum has ever done before.
Mm-hmm.
Now, as it turns out, that's a wider range of art media than most museums show.
Mm-hmm.
And let me give you a couple examples. We don't shy away from woodworking. Most museums would, just a mere craft. We don't shy away from quilts. Now, take that on, and I started looking for sculptural things because museums don't show enough sculpture because it's hard to handle, it's awkward, whatever. And in the realm of sculpture, the best things I saw weren't in metal, they weren't in aluminum, they weren't in clay, they were in glass. And I didn't know glass, so I studied it for 2 years and found out studio glass movement. We're not talking about cups and pitchers and platters, we're talking about sculpture made from glass. Most exciting stuff I ever saw. So
Is this blown glass?
Some of it's blown, some of it's cast, some of it's molded, some of it's layered. I mean, there are so many different ways of working with the media. That's what makes it so exciting.
Right.
And the artists, nationally and internationally, are extraordinary. And that led me to thinking that we have to have a Summer of Glass to celebrate the 51st anniversary of Studio Glass.
Okay.
And started by Harvey Littleton 51 years ago, who was a ceramicist who thought, ceramics aren't fun anymore to me. I want to work on something new.
Yeah.
Let's put glass in the kiln.
Right.
And so we have a Chihuly show, a show about the students of Chihuly, and a show featuring the best in the world contemporary glass makers.
Well, and Chihuly is probably one of the best known of all the glass artists that there is.
He
isn't
is. And Melinda, I want to tell you why that is. Chihuly was a student of the fellow I mentioned, Harvey Littleton. And Harvey, though, Harvey wanted you and I each to have a little glass kiln in our own studio and work privately alone. And Dale said, I have more fun when I get some beer and bring everybody over to my studio and get a bigger kiln, and we all do this together. Let's do it as a team. And I don't think Harvey approved. And Dale took that to the nines And that was very new to people. He also said, why do I have to make one thing? Why couldn't I make a bunch of things, get them all glued together and make some crazy stuff? And that's what got him in the eye of the marketing people.
Well, and I think you were alluding to this earlier too, that sometimes the sculpture, especially the glass sculpture, is hard to ship and move.
Oh, my goodness.
So that would be a challenge.
The fragile nature of glass. At the same time, the heavy nature. We had several pieces in this show that were 400 and 500 pounds each, taking 4 people to lift these things onto the base, and you don't want to drop anything.
Oh, no.
No, they're $75,000, $85,000 a piece.
No room for anything.
No mistakes. No. Can't have any mistakes.
Well, you know, some other museums haven't been too keen on, you know, having studio glass, and so, you know, what really made you choose that to bring it here?
My issue was, I think the other museums are too narrow in their focus. I don't think there is a great difference between what we used to call crafts and fine art. I think we have fine art, I think we have fine crafts. Now, there's a crochet toilet paper holder or a little, you know, a little clay ashtray I made at camp.
Right.
That's craft in my mind. All the other things by these extremely good professionals are fine art, and let's show them all. So I welcome these glass artists in, and they're delighted to be celebrated at the museum.
You know, I don't know if you can sum it up. Studio glass, you know, what does that mean?
Done in the studio by an artist, not in a factory, for utilitarian purposes.
Okay, so that's
not for everyday use.
Okay.
This is an object to be loved and admired, made in the studio.
A piece of art to
a piece of art, exactly.
Okay.
And some of these studios are involving more than one person, unlike Harvey's original premise.
And so hopefully in the future you'll be bringing some more of this to Fort Wayne as well.
We will have studio glass every year, 2 or 3 times.
Excellent.
And we're building a nice big collection of it too.
And so this exhibit running all summer through?
Through the end of September, which is delightful because that gets us past school opening, past Labor Day, and everybody closing their camp up. Come on back and see it one more time.
Okay, excellent. Well, Charles, thank you so much for being here and explaining all about that. That's going to be a great exhibit. While we get ready for our next segment, please take a minute to view our performance calendar of what's coming up in our area. You also can follow us on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. We'll be right back with Nikki Foltz from Fort Wayne Pride.